Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to take my dogs out because they weren't shutting up. They never shut up. But and there he goes again. He'll run out of steam here eventually. But anyways, the next Christmas movie I picked. Now a lot of people don't really consider this a Christmas movie. They more consider it like a Halloween movie. But it's Gremlins. It's about. I'm pretty sure everybody's at least heard, seen this, or at least heard of it. But like I said, I know a lot of people wouldn't consider this a Christmas movie, but um, the more you watch the movie, you'll find that a lot of the scenes in the movie are associated with Christmas. Like the scene where like Gizmo being given as a present, and Gizmo wearing a Santa hat, the dog being wrapped up in Christmas lights, the gremlin in the tree, the gremlin singing Christmas carols. Like the more you watch this movie, you'll find that it's really a likable Christmas movie. But it's about this teenager who gets this mogwai as a present from his dad from Chinatown, and has all these rules like you can't feed it after midnight, and you can't get it wet, and you can't take it out in bright light. And he accidentally ends up feeding it after midnight at one point. Well, before that, he gets it wet and they all multiply, and then he accidentally feeds them after midnight, and then they go through the pupal stage, and then they hatch, and then they turn into little green monsters and just attack everything. This is an awesome movie. Like I said, I know a lot of people wouldn't consider this a Christmas movie, but I do. I mean, when I went to Vintage Stock last week and I found the Christmas DVD setup, this DVD was actually in there. So, the next one I picked is the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Jingle All the Way. They also made a Jingle All the Way 2. Avoid that at all costs. Just don't bother with that one. They also made a Christmas Story 2. Don't bother with that one either, because everybody knows that's bad. But this is about Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, who he's so wrapped up in his work that he hardly ever has any time for his wife and son. And at one point, he tries to make it up to his son by giving him a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. And unfortunately, he didn't get it when he was supposed to. He was supposed to get it like a couple weeks before Christmas. And so on Christmas Eve, he goes on all this big adventure around the city to try to find it. But everywhere he goes, it's all sold out. So it just becomes a nightmare from trying to get it. And Sinbad plays another dad who's trying to find the same thing, and he and Arnold Schwarzenegger are battling out to find it first. And this is a really funny movie. And like I said, well, there's some people out there who don't really like this movie, like the Nostalgia Critic, but I found this funny. I mean, and this is the special edition, which has 8 minutes of extended footage. Ah, that dog. The next one I picked is another classic, and it's the Polar Express. And this is the 3D version. I don't know if the 3D version's still out anymore or not. I know the 2D version is still out, but this is just a phenomenal movie. Like, I didn't see this movie until like a few years after it came out, but when I watched it the first time, I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is one of the best Christmas movies of all time. Not only is it one of the best CG movies of all time, but it's also one of the best CG Christmas movies of all time. So, this is about a kid who, it's based off the book, but it's about a kid who gets on the ride on this magic train called the Polar Express all the way to the North Pole, and there are these kids all on the train who are looking forward to it. And he meets this girl, and he meets this and he meets this other kid who doesn't think he'll fit in with everybody, and he thinks that he doesn't care about, nobody cares about Christmas in his family. And this is another, like I said, this movie is awesome. If you haven't seen this movie, you've been under a rock. Just check this one out. Go buy it. Go watch it on Netflix. Just, it's like $7 or something like that at Walmart, $7 or $8. Go buy yourself a DVD or Blu-ray copy. You gotta check this movie out. Alright, and that's it for the DVDs. Now on with the VHS tapes. The first VHS I picked, sorry. I know I'm not talking very clearly whenever I do these videos. It's hard to explain. It's just hard to explain whenever I show a certain movie and try to explain the plot and everything. But this one is Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights. And this is more of a Hanukkah movie, but it is Christmas as well. But it's about Adam Sandler's character who is just an asshole with everybody, and he ends up getting arrested after not paying for his dinner, and he ends up being arrested and taken to court. And then this old guy who's a basketball referee, who's known him like for many, many years, decides to train him as a referee in order to like have a better attitude and take him to the mall and just hang out there. But it turns out the real reason Adam Sandler's character in this movie is an asshole with everything is because his parents died when he was a kid, and he was afraid to like let it all out and he was afraid to just let it all out and everything. But I know, despite all the negative reviews this movie got, I thought it was pretty funny. And the next two I picked are classics that everybody's heard of, I'm sure, and it's Home Alone and Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. I do have Home Alone 3, but I didn't pick that because it's not in my favorites, and it doesn't really take place around Christmas, even though it follows the same plot. A kid all by himself in a creepy old house, and then there are burglars trying to rob it, and he has to set all these booby traps in order to defend his house. It's the plot of the first movie. You know, the first movie's about Macaulay Culkin's character, and before this, he was in Uncle Buck. You might have remembered that. But in this movie, he ends up getting sent to bed early one night because he got into a fight with his older brother because he ate his entire cheese pizza, and he ends up spilling pizza and drinks all over the place, and he ends up getting sent to bed early without dinner. And before he goes to bed, he tells his mother that all he wants for Christmas is no family. He wants to be alone. Then he wakes up the next day and finds out that his family is missing because they woke up late and they were about to miss their flight to Paris because they were going to Paris to spend time with their extended family. And there are two robbers, Harry and Marv. They're trying to break into the kid's house, and the kid sets up all these booby traps to defend his house from being robbed. And then the second movie, a lot of people, there's some people that say the second movie is kind of the same story as the first one, except it's all in New York instead of Chicago. And they're kind of right. But this one, they get Kevin goes to a Christmas pageant at his school, and he ends up ruining it because of a prank that his older brother did to him, and he ended up getting laughed at and humiliated. And then when they go home to confront him about it, he says he's not sorry. Then he gets sent to bed early again. And then when his mom comes upstairs to talk to him, he says he wants to go on his own vacation. And then the next morning they wake up. His family's going to Miami, and they get separated in the airport. And Kevin ends up in New York, and it turns out that the burglars broke out of prison and somehow got to New York, and then later in the movie they run into Macaulay Culkin again. It is kind of the same plot as the first movie, except it's all in New York, and they kind of they added some new things to it, like Kevin checking himself into the Plaza Hotel, and he has his dad's credit card and all of his cash, and he goes on all these crazy adventures and buying all this shit with it. Yeah, I think out of both of these, I like the second one a little bit better because it's funnier because Tim Curry's in the movie too, and I thought he did really awesome. And the next one I picked is another classic, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This is when the Griswolds from Vacation and European Vacation, they're staying home for Christmas, and the extended family comes over and all the issues that they get into. Then Cousin Eddie comes over with his wife and these two kids. And then the sledding scene, and then the turkey scene, and the scene with the squirrel in the tree. There's a lot of funny scenes in this movie, so if you haven't seen this movie, this is another one to check out. Go buy this movie if you want a good Christmas comedy to watch, because that's definitely a good one. There's not one bad thing about it, not one. Then the next one I picked is Tim Allen's movie, The Santa Claus, and this is one of Disney's best Christmas movies. It's about now I don't have the sequels yet, but I plan to get those soon, even though they're kind of kiddish, and I just thought they were just okay, not as good as this one. This is the best one. I think this is one of those movies that's so good that it doesn't deserve to have a sequel. But this is about Tim Allen's character who works for a toy company, and he's trying to find a way to spend more time with his son during Christmas because he's divorced from his wife. And one night after going to bed, Santa comes onto the roof, and then he goes outside and says, "What are you doing up there?" And then the Santa accidentally slips off and falls off the roof and accidentally killing himself. And to make his son feel better, he puts on the suit. He puts on the Santa suit because after the other Santa died, he disappeared. Now, since Tim Allen was responsible for his death, he has to put on the suit and take over all the duties of being Santa Claus, like delivering the presents, checking the list off, and making toys. And this is and then afterwards, when it happens, he tells everybody about it. The kid tells everybody about it. He tells his friends at school. He tells his mom. He tells his stepdad, and they all don't believe him. But then, as next Christmas comes along, they find out that Tim Allen finds out that he just can't get out of the job, and he ends up growing a beard. He ends up growing a gut. His hair turns white. And yeah, you gotta check this movie out. It's just awesome. And this is actually the first movie that Tim Allen did because I heard a lot of people say that when this movie came out that they didn't know if Tim Allen could carry a film because they knew he could carry Home Improvement all right, but they didn't know if he could carry on an actual film. But he did, and this movie turned out to be a big hit, and that's when Tim Allen started making more movies. He was in He voiced Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. He was in George of the Jungle, and he was in the Santa Claus 2, Santa Claus 3, Christmas with the Cranks, Zoom, all these movies. That's gonna do it for part 2, and I'll see you guys in part 3.